Welcome to the Friction Zona YouTube channel. Today I'm going to talk about 5 tips for beginner riders or newer riders, or those thinking of getting a motorcycle and getting their license. The first off, which you'll hear all the time, is ATGAT, or just buy the gear, get the gear, borrow the gear. Just don't ride a motorcycle without protective motorcycle specific gear. So what does that mean? First off, you're going to need a helmet, jacket, gloves, pants, and boots. Now, first, most important is the helmet, and you're going to need to look for a Snell or ECE rating. The minimum is DOT rating, but you should probably spend a couple $100 at least to get a decent helmet with either a Snell, SNELL, or ECE, which is a European safety standard helmet. And I would get them from a well-known manufacturer like Shoei, Scorpion, Bell, Schubert, Arai. There's a bunch of other ones that are pretty decent. Shark. There's probably 15, 20. HJC is fine. They make some really nice stuff too. So there's probably like 12, 15 manufacturers who do a good job. So just get one of those. Spend about $200 at least. I spent about $350 on my first helmet. A Shoei Quest, which is bottom of the line Shoei. A lot of their helmets are 500 to 800. So you definitely want to invest in a good helmet if you can afford it. But at least get a safe full face helmet. If you have to go down to Cycle Gear, get a Bilt or Sedici $100 job. But it's not going to be very comfortable, so I would only do that if you have to for money purposes. The next 2 really important things are gloves. I started off with Scorpion Claw 2 gloves. They were only like $50 on Revzilla, but they're okay. They're fine. They protect, but not the greatest. And I realized I wanted more protection the faster I was riding. So I got some Alpinestars SPX that have palm sliders and carbon fiber on the knuckles. So if you can afford it, spend about $80 to $100 on gloves from reputable manufacturer. Alpinestars, Revit, Scorpion are fine. There's a bunch of different glove makers. Dainese, who else? There's tons. Look around, but you definitely need protective gloves. And next is boots. Most people recommend wearing taller boots that go up to way past your ankles, up to your shins, like at least halfway up your shins. Taller the better. You want ankle protection. You want hard parts on the boot. You want a stiff sole so it doesn't bend in case your foot gets caught. So you need motorcycle specific boots. You can get them from anyone from Alpinestars, Tourmaster. There's tons of manufacturers, but definitely invest in a pair of boots. You probably need at least spend $100 to get a decent pair of boots. A really good pair of boots, probably over $200. But I would definitely, if you have to, get the shorter boots, or at least motorcycle-specific sneakers, which I don't recommend, but at least it's something. Don't ride around in like Vans or work boots. It's not going to do as much as you think. Now the other 2 things are jacket and pants. They're also important, maybe a little bit less important, but still. If you go down in a slide, you want to have a motorcycle jacket, either leather jacket, or I have a textile jacket with armor in it. You want that, and I have textile pants, sort of mesh and textile, both of those actually. And so they have abrasion resistance, and they breathe pretty well. I live out in Arizona, so it's hot, so I don't wear leather. And textile is cheaper. So approximately $1,000, you can get a really safe gear get up. And if you watch Ryan Fortnine or Fortnine.ca, the Canadian Revzilla, but they have a really good guide by Ryan Fortnine. He has a guide. Basically, if he's very experienced, way more than I am. If he was going to start right now, what gear he would buy, and he tends to he's very good at the budget prices and everything like that. So he could probably even get lower than $1,000. So that's very important, because if you go down, you want to dress for the slide, not for the ride. So don't worry about what you look like. I also wear a high-vis vest, which is, a lot of people think it's pretty dorky, but I figured if one more person sees me then I can ride longer and have more fun. But also, if you're try to buy more visible gear, I would say. Like I have a black helmet. I wish I had a white or silver, yellow, red helmet. And my clothes are pretty dark. I wish I had brighter clothes. So I'd say if you had to pick between colors, and if you don't mind, get the brighter color, the lighter and brighter color for both visibility and heat reduction. So as far as gear, that's what I suggest. And number 2 would be training. Definitely get some training. To get your motorcycle license, you have to do, at least in the United States, 2 days training, 2 days in a row, and they test you. There's also ongoing education you can take. Like right now, I bought an online course from Yamaha Champ School. I think it was $45 if you go to Moto Jitsu. He's also a great resource. I think he offers a discount. Or MC Rider is a good source for YouTube. And I also take in-person training classes. I've done about 3 of them after my MSF course. Like basically they're skill classes. One completely on cornering. For about 3 hours, you just go over cornering techniques and practice. One was on braking, so emergency braking, different braking techniques, slow speed, stuff like that. And the other one was limited space maneuvers, which you remember the MSF course, you had to do like a figure 8, all that kind of stuff. So just practicing tight turns and balancing your bike at very low speeds. They even had a low speed sort of race, so to see how long you could stay on your bike while keep moving forward, either stopping or moving forward without touching your feet. And the goal was to get at least 10 seconds, I think. So, yeah, definitely continuing education in motorcycling, because you really need to keep going and keep learning. There's so much to learn. I know about 5% of what's out there right now, and I've been riding about a year and a half. There's so much to learn, different types of bike and different types of riding. You can always improve. There's always something to learn. Even if you think you mastered something, you probably have not. Or if you did, maybe it's time to try a different style of bike or different, maybe you want to try some off-road or track days or something like that. One quick little tip, and I think Moto Jitsu and a lot of other people recommend that I started doing it soon after I started riding, was just when I come to a red light or a stop sign, I just put my left foot down. I keep my right foot on the brake, so the brake light is always illuminated. And sometimes I just tap up and down on it so that the light blinks. So if you're a little more visible at a intersection from cars coming up from behind you. And I leave it in first gear so you're ready to take off at any time. I don't put it in neutral because then it may turn green and you can't get into gear and you start panicking and you might get rear-ended. So I never put it in neutral when I'm riding, basically. Only maybe when I'm parking sometimes or doing something like that, or moving my bike around. But not on the roads, not at an intersection. Keep in first gear, clutch in, ready to go within a half a second. And 1 foot down. Also, if you're a shorter rider, I'm a taller rider, so I'm about 6'1". But if you're shorter, you can ride taller bikes by using this technique, which a lot of people do. You just put 1 foot down and you just balance it on your left foot. And it's very light. There's not much weight coming down. It's only tilted over a little bit, so your foot is down. But you can flat foot 1 foot. Is more stable than being on your tippy toes on both feet, from what I've read and seen. So 1 foot down is a nice maneuver, and just makes everything simple. And then number 4 would be practice. Practice with those classes, practice the skills they teach you. Because it's not like sports, if you ever play basketball or golf or anything like that, if you don't play all the time, you get rusty and you feel just uncoordinated and don't play as well. And I think motorcycles are similar. You got to keep up that skill. You got to practice, or like a musical instrument, you need to practice. You can't just pick it up once every 6 months and expect to sound good or play well. So you definitely want to practice, and I would say at least weekly to keep it up, and then hopefully, a couple times a week if you can. I know the winter is tough for a lot of people, but that's what I would do. But now that it's springtime, you should have more time. So just, practice, and the more seat time you have, the better. You just gradually get used to things that initially kind of freak you out, like traffic and all that. At first I was you basically want to keep it lower speeds and parking lots and side streets, and you'll gradually build up your confidence. And then, for example, you'll get used to speed. Like originally, you'll be scared to go 45 or 40. And then once you get used to that, you get 50 or 60, and then 70 or 80. But it's amazing how much your brain and your body get used to things. And one tip I would say is keep your eyes up, look ahead, don't look down at your tires or your steering wheel. Your handlebars. Just keep your head up and look out. Just look where you're going. Don't worry too much about what's behind you. Just keep and have one thing I do is keep my 2 fingers on the brake lever and just ready to pull it. Instead of I don't grip the handlebar with all my fingers. I put 2 on at least 1 or 2 on the brake, the left, front brake, so the right lever. That way, they'll pull out in front of you or they'll brake abruptly. Your finger's already there, so all you have to do is squeeze it. You don't want to do anything too abrupt, but you just squeeze the brake lever. That saved me a few times from panic braking. And I learned that in the skills class, so I've already used that probably half a dozen times, where it made it a very manageable situation where I just slowed down instead of like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then I slam on the brakes. And my 5th and final advice would be just take your time, take it easy. Don't buy a big, heavy, fast bike for your first bike. I'd recommend, talking about street riders, 250 cc's to 500. You maybe will get away with like a 650 or 750 low horsepower, sort of lazy engines like that. Some of the older bikes have. Some of the retro bikes have. Where they're the equivalent of, like, say I have a Z400. They're the equivalent of like a 400 cc as far as power goes, and they're heavy, so they're not real fast. So you probably get away with one of those, like a Royal Enfield Continental or the Kawasaki W800. Some of the slower, bigger bikes, or the Honda Shadow Cruiser 750. Those kind of bikes. I still wouldn't recommend it because it's probably a little too heavy and a little more advanced. But if you're just riding streets and no freeways, 250s are plenty. 300s will get you on the freeway too, and then so 300, 400, 500. That's what I would do. I have a 400, so maybe I'm biased, but it took me months and months to even get anywhere near the top end of the rev range, for sustained periods. So it has plenty of power. It goes 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds, at least. 60 miles an hour. And 4.5 seconds for a supposed beginner bike, and it can go over 100 miles an hour. So I don't know why anybody would need anything faster than that as a first bike. So chances are it's going to be faster than any car you've ever owned. And even the slower 300 250s are probably, I think even the Ninja 250, the old school one, I think it still ran about 6 something seconds. And that's a little 250, so I think there's plenty of power. If you really just want to learn, like you're honestly interested in learning how to ride a motorcycle, and you don't care what appearances aren't that important at first, because it's not really the goal. You can get that. You can get a really cool fast bike later. Just get something you know how to operate first. Just like anything, like those MotoGP, the racers don't start off in 600 cc's or 1,000 cc bikes. Air Force pilots don't start off in F-15s. They start off on propellers and then slower jets and then just barely supersonic jets and then F-16s, etc. This is a progression. Almost in anything. You want to start off just so you learn the basic concepts and you're not scared out of your mind all the time. And you can actually learn a lot versus just being afraid that you're going to mess up and crash. There'll be plenty of time. If you do everything right, you'll have plenty of time to ride really big, fast bikes. But you want to get the fundamentals down on a slower bike. And they're not, people say slow or beginner, they're still very fast. They'll still get you a hell of a lot of trouble if you're not careful. So I think it's kind of funny when I see people start off on bigger bikes. And some people, they may have started off on dirt bikes and they're more daredevil type personalities, but there's no need to do it. It's not a smart way to do it. Not that you can't do it. It's not illegal. It's not impossible. But it's very ill-advised. So start off small bikes. Both in power and size. Light bikes with smaller engines. and just enjoy learning it. You'll feel more and more comfortable with the motorcycle, and you'll be surprised what it can do. Really experienced riders can take 400cc bikes and really rip around on them because they know they know how to control them, and they're used to faster bikes. And there's an expression: it's more fun to ride a slow bike fast than a fast bike slow. Sort of like little sports cars, like a Miata is a lot of fun to ride, apparently to drive around because it's not super powerful and it's very maneuverable. And you can learn how to race with those things versus a 600 horsepower Dodge Charger that you really can't floor it anywhere because you get a speeding ticket or crash. So you want to enjoy the fine art of motorcycling, learn how to ride one, and have something to look forward to too. You're like, oh yeah, I can learn this bike, and then a year or two from now I'll buy a R6 or a something MT-07 or something MT-09, one of the more fun, wheelie, happy kind of bikes. Or you may say, hey, I don't really like a lot of speed, but I want to cruise around. I want to do adventure riding or off-road riding. But there's no reason to, it's like giving a teenager a Lamborghini. There's no reason for that. He's not going to learn much, and he's probably going to hurt himself. So anyway, hope you found this helpful. But biggest thing is just use your head. Listen to yourself as far as like safety. If something scares you, take your time and learn how to ride. Take your classes, get your gear. Start off slowly, work your way up, and I think you'll all enjoy this whole motorcycling world. Thank you. Like and subscribe.